Thank you so much. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of my story with you. The match you saw, that was my national championship match. And when I see it, I still get the butterflies like I'm wrestling all over again. You know, I feel like I'm going out there again. And it was just a dream come true. That's what I trained for 9 years. Wrestlers, there's not a professional league, so the top is NCAA championships. So every wrestler who gets into the sport, they dream of becoming an NCAA champion. So 9 years just to get that opportunity to stand up there and wrestle for 7 minutes and have my dream come true. It was an amazing experience. I remember I come off of the mat. This was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so there's like 20,000 fans in this arena. I come off the mat after I won, and I'm underneath the tunnel. I'm just sweating, my heart's pounding out of my chest, and I'm just so excited, I'm so happy. I turn my phone on, and it just blows up with text messages and phone calls of my family and friends back home who had been watching. And I'm thinking, this is cool, you know, this is awesome. Wrestling, it's not the sport you get into if you want a lot of attention. It's not like football and basketball to where you're on SportsCenter 24/7. So you can imagine my surprise. I'm sitting there, I'm putting all my warm-up gear on, and I'm looking across at the TV monitor. And it's on ESPN, and they're replaying my match. So I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. This is really cool. I want to see if my friends are looking at this. So I turn my phone, and I hit the Facebook app on my phone. Right after that match, I hit the Facebook friend request limit. Over 5,000 people sent me friend requests. And so I'm thinking, this is strange. What's going on? I fly home from Philadelphia to Arizona, and it starts getting weirder. I get these phone calls. One of them was from Nike, saying they wanted me to be a Nike athlete. And these book and movie companies are calling to do these book and movie deals with me. I didn't get into wrestling for that attention. I just loved the sport. I wanted to be the best in it. That was my dream. So all this other stuff, it was really a blessing to me. I felt like I was living a dream. Before the match, though, I knew that public speaking was something I wanted to do. It was a passion of mine. I went to Arizona State, Arizona boy. And I was a business communications major there. And my senior year, I was even working with a speaking coach just to prepare for life after college, just to get ready for a professional speaking career. It was about a week before that tournament. During one of our meetings, he pulled me aside. He said, look, we got to put the pause button on right now. He said, I need to let you focus on what's most important, and that's you winning that national title. He said, so this last week, don't come and see me. Don't practice drafting out speeches and outlines. He said, just get mentally and physically ready to wrestle. Go win that tournament. After you win, come back, see me, we'll get back into things. So I told him that sounded good. So I fly back home, national champion. I'm 21 years old at the time. Book and movie companies are calling. So needless to say, my confidence is at an all-time high. I'm charged up. I'm ready to go. So I get in front of my speaking coach. I told him, I said, give me the biggest group you got. Let's do it. He says, no, slow down. He said, we're going to start with a small group of about 10 people. And I looked at him. I said, well, I just wrestled in front of 20,000, and he was trying to rip my head off. So you don't have to worry about me getting scared out there. I can handle it. He says, no, trust me on this. We're going to start small, get you off on the right track. So I said, all right, sounds good. He told me, he said, good. He said, I'm going to make this easy on you. All you have to do is answer some questions. He said, 10 to 15 minutes of question and answer session. And I'm thinking, oh, home run. I've been practicing speeches all the time. Question and answer, no problem. So he said, one more thing, though. He told me, I'm going to set this up with a group of third graders. Yeah, you're smarter than I was. I was sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm a national champion wrestler. I got 3 little brothers, a little sister. I love kids. Yeah, set it up, let's do it. So he sets up this speaking event, my first ever. I remember I'm backstage at this elementary school. And I walk out on stage, there's about 10, 15 third graders sitting on the ground. One of the things you learn in athletics is you never underestimate your opponent. So I think that's where I made my first mistake with these kids. I remember being on the stage and I'm answering some of the questions, and this little boy, he raised his hand up. So I call on him, and he stood up. He stood up to ask his question. I remember he was wearing a black WWF wrestling t-shirt. And so right away, right, I know he's going to ask me something weird. So I knew it was coming. So I remember I was looking at him, just waiting for it. And he said, have you ever wrestled The Rock before? And I remember thinking, okay, how do I explain to him the difference between my wrestling and that wrestling? If I tell him his wrestling is the fake wrestling, that might make him mad. So I was trying to think of something to tell him, how to answer the question. The only thing I could blurt out of my mouth, I said, no. I said, I've never wrestled The Rock, but I've wrestled other people, just to get to the next question. He sits down, but now he's got all the other kids thinking I'm a WWF wrestler. So I lost control and the teacher didn't even help me. One of the kids asked me if I'd ever hit someone with a chair before. Another one asked what my costume looked like. And I've never gone back to a third grade classroom. I can't do that. But what you saw, that's the real wrestling. That's my wrestling. What we do in high school, college, in a certain version in the Olympics. And in the real wrestling, there's a total of about 7 minutes. During that time, you either score points by taking down your opponent or escaping from their grasp. And it's a very physically and mentally demanding sport. Wrestling in college, there's 10 weight classes. In high school, there's about 12. So on average, a wrestler loses about 10 to 15 pounds per week to make their weight class. And so we call it mental toughness, just having that mental discipline to be able to do it. And I learned a lot from my sport, just going through, but going through my sport, I found that I could say I wrestled not just on the mat, against those flesh and blood opponents, those other schools, but through life as well. And I think to some extent we can all say that. We all have certain challenges, whether it be physical, family, work, whatever. We all have some opponent we're dealing with, we're wrestling with. And despite the challenges, there's a word I like to use. It's unstoppable. And I learned that from my mom. My mom, we're very close. She's a very special person in my life. My mom, she had me when she was young. She was 16 years old. So in between her sophomore and junior year of high school. When my biological father found out she was pregnant with me, he took off. I've never met him. He was never around. I didn't even know his name until I was 23 years old because it wasn't important to me. So my mom, she's there alone. She has me. And the crazy thing is that she did not expect me to be born missing my leg. Not even the doctors knew. They didn't expect it. So what she told me was they rushed me out of the operating room, didn't tell her what was going on because they didn't know if I was going to live or not. And they come back to her and say, we don't know how to explain it. We don't know what went wrong exactly, but your son's missing his right leg. They said, other than that, he's perfectly healthy. We can't explain it to you. So you can imagine as a kid, as I started to get older, I noticed kids and adults would kind of stare at me when I go places. They'd look at me, stare at me differently. I didn't understand it. They started asking me what happened. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what happened. So I struggled for a little while with just some self-confidence issues, just not knowing what to tell them, not knowing how to fit in. But my mom, she's a real smart lady, best mom I could ask for. She always told me the same thing. She said, there's nothing wrong with you. She said, God made you that way for a reason. Just wait and see what it is. And the best thing she did for me was she did not allow me to see this as a handicap, or as a disability, or something to use as an excuse. She always pushed me and encouraged me to try new things. She showed me how to ride a bike at 5 years old. And, she never second-guessed me on anything. She always said, you just got to figure out a different way to do certain things. She said, but there's nothing you can't do. Her prophecy of that plan, it started to come true when I turned 14. It was funny because I went to wrestling practice for the first time. And I didn't tell my mom I was going to practice. So I come home, I was wearing a white t-shirt. And I remember the t-shirt was all stretched out, dirty, blood stains all over it. My face is swollen, busted lip, blood all over my teeth. I walked through the door and my mom's freaking out. She thinks I got beat up at school. She's ready to call the police. I said, no, Mom. I said, I went to wrestling practice. This is the funnest thing I've ever done. She's looking, I got smiling, blood all over me. And she's like, she told me, she said, that doesn't look very fun to me. She's like, are you sure? I said, Mom, this is what I want to do. I want to be a wrestler. I love this stuff. I want to be a wrestler. And she told me, she said, okay, tell me what you need, what gear you need. We'll go out tomorrow, we'll get it for you. Get you into wrestling. And so that was the start of my wrestling career, 14 years old. I wish I could tell you I was the best right out the gate. I was winning all the tournaments, but I'll be honest, I was horrible. I sucked. I won 4 times my freshman year. 4 times, ton of losses behind me. And I finished last in the Mesa City tournament. Last in the city of Mesa. It was a challenging year for me. The lightest weight class when I was in high school was 103 pounds. So those kids were already small. I was 14 years old. The heaviest I got that year was 90.5 pounds. So I'm beyond small. My nickname going through high school was Urkel because I was so little. From my teammates. I tell them they were jealous they looked like Denzel and they didn't. But. So I'm smaller than all the guys. I had never wrestled before, never actually seen a real wrestling match. My cousin just brought me to one of his practices. That's what made me try it. So I don't know what I'm doing. Coach does not know how to coach me because he's never coached a kid missing the leg before. I got to learn everything differently, learning a different style basically. So that first year it was a struggle. It was a challenge. And that last match, it was tough. Now I remember seeing all my other buddies, my teammates, they're placing high, getting their medals. I finished last. As I went across the mat to shake the coach's hand, I remember he shook my hand and he said, good job to me. But the way he said it, I felt like he felt sorry for me. You know, I could just hear it in his voice. And for some reason, just that moment just lit this fire inside me. I was so mad, just angry. I remember going home that night and just sitting there just mad. I was thinking, I'm done. I'm done losing. I'm done having people feel sorry for me, all this other stuff. I'm not going to stop training until I'm the best wrestler out of Arizona. That's my dream. That's my goal. I'm not going to stop till I get it. And I'm 26 years old now. When I was 14, I wrote that dream down on this little sticky note. And still carry this with me in my wallet. You know, it just kind of gives me good memories. It helps me through, when I go through certain challenges or I'm trying to reach something, I just remember this one, you know, how long it took to get it. But I remember posting this on my bedroom mirror. I take it to school, put it in my locker at practice, just to look at it every day to kind of hold myself accountable. I've always been a huge quote guy. Always loved quotes. One of them, it said, impossible was found only in the dictionary of fools. And so I wasn't going to accept defeat. And I wasn't going to accept people telling me it was impossible, that I couldn't do it. So I went to my coach. I said, Coach, I want to be the best. What do I need to do to be the best? He said, all right. He said, if you want to be the best, you got to train with the best. He said, you need to train with Chris. Now, Chris, he was a 152-pound wrestler. I was a 103-pound wrestler, so he had some weight on top of me. To make it even tougher, Chris was one of the meanest wrestlers on the team. He had the most penalties out of any wrestler on our team. He set a record. So everybody was afraid to wrestle with Chris. Chris made it a game where in practice, he'd see how far he could throw me and see how many times he could push me out